Picture this. Your child wants to keep every rock they found outside, every Happy Meal toy from 3 years ago, even the packaging from their favorite doll. And you're standing there holding something up saying, "This is trash," while they're ready to defend it with their life. Sound familiar? I'm Dr. Melanie Wilson, and this is the Homeschool Sanity Show, where my guests and I share wisdom for making the homeschool journey a happy one for you and your kids. Today, I'm talking with Dana K. White, decluttering expert, author, and creator of The Container Concept that has helped thousands of families, including mine, finally get their homes under control. Dana's back on the show to talk about her brand new children's book, Winnie's Pillows, and to share why most parents are making decluttering with kids way harder than it needs to be. I wanted her back on the show to tell us about the book that is the perfect one to read during the Training Aliens decluttering mission. Let's talk with Dana. Dana, I am so happy to have you back. I am super excited to talk about your newly published book. But before we get into that, I would love to know what has been going on with you and your family since we spoke last year.
Well, I am in the empty nest-ish phase, the phase where technically they're all the way at college, but it's amazing how quickly, and I love them being home. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, of course, but it's like, wait, what? It's spring break next week? What? And it's like, what? It's summer. And so I'm like, they're gone, but they're back a lot. So I think before you hit that stage, it's so easy to think, oh no, they're going to be gone. They're not actually gone. But it's been fun. So I would say, what in the world has happened in the last year? They're all three in college at this point. I'm not sure where we were last time. I know we'd had one who'd taken a break for a little while, but he's back in, and we're applying for internships and finding jobs in our actual fields of things we want to do with our lives. And so that's been a really fun journey as a parent, where you're just cheering on, but I have nothing to do with anything. So other than just, hey, make sure you smile in the interview or whatever. But yeah, so we're good. And I was just telling you beforehand, I was kind of giving my little exhaustion spiel, but I'm in the middle of writing more books and kind of hopefully getting to the end of the major parts of the writing and ready to sleep.
All right. Well, I am hoping that you can come back and tell us when that latest book is available, because we are going to want to know about it. And I can relate to so much of what you were saying. But we're going to shift gears to talk about your latest release, which is about kids and decluttering. So my first question for you is, what do you think the biggest mistake is that parents tend to make when they're trying to declutter with their kids?
The biggest mistake is thinking that, and this is a mistake that everyone makes when decluttering, is thinking that the way to get rid of something is to convince yourself or convince your child that it's a bad thing. Okay. Like, there is an idea, especially when you say, when people go into decluttering and they have all these assumptions about, so decluttering basically just means going in and saying, what do I not want? What do I not need? And I'm like, actually, I may want some stuff really bad, and those things don't have a place in my home and they need to leave. Right. So that idea that is what you do often then translates as parents into me holding up an item and saying, this is trash. Well, we all know how that goes with our highly creative children, right? Because then it becomes an argument about whether or not it's trash. as opposed to, we've talked before on here about my process that I have, and we go through it, but we don't ask ourselves like questions like that. Instead, we, get out the things we already know are trash and go through all that process. But I think that's the main thing, is that it immediately turns it into a power struggle
Mm.
as opposed to a working together, and that you don't have to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a better way. And actually, I know you weren't intending to, but you just really spoke to where I am right now
Hmm.
in trying to streamline my closet, and the clothes that really don't fit in my closet. There's nothing wrong with them; they're
Hmm.
wonderful. So, trying to tell myself that, oh, these are bad, was
But
really not
right, it
a good
doesn't
idea.
work.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the shift when people really start to change how they see their stuff and their home. It's when they realize that to have a house that is under control and easily under control for me, it will require getting rid of perfectly good stuff, which means I don't have to decide something's bad, because that's an emotional battle within myself, an emotional battle between a parent and a child. So we take all that out of there and say, these can be amazing things. We're not going to say it's bad. We acknowledge that we love it, but let's look at the other factors, like, is there space for it? Can we handle it? Is it too much for us? All that.
Mhm. Absolutely. So there is an extreme, though, in some families, and I think especially with some kids. I had a child who initially, um, when he was maybe like 8,
Mhm.
around that age, where he just wanted to keep everything. It seemed,
Mhm.
every little rock that he found outside, he had to keep in his room. And I was talking with a friend who said that her girls even wanted to keep the packaging
Mhm.
that a favorite toy came in. And I can absolutely see that. Did you have any kids who were like that? And then how did you deal with that? Or how does your new book help kids understand that we can't actually keep everything?
So, I mean, we don't have to go into my whole story again here, but I was that child.
Mm.
That is my story. I was that adult. I loved everything. I kept everything that was good or useful or whatever. And because I have a really creative personality and brain, I saw everything as good and useful, things other people would see as trash. And so that actually was not a helpful, that's the reason I don't use those parameters, those qualifications for why something should go or not. So instead of having that conversation, especially when you're in a situation like with your son where everything is, if we're going to have an argument about every rock, that's why we give up so quickly, right?
Mhm.
Or we get
Mhm.
into a situation where, you do something that damages the relationship, right? So instead of looking at it that way, you go into everything is, we start with the things that they already know can go, right? So it's
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
let's start with the trash, let's start with the easy things that do have a home, get those things taken out of this space. Let's start with, the obvious donations that you already know, like, get those things out, so we're not just looking at them as big of a massive stuff.
Mhm.
And then we, even though you're like, I can't believe they didn't throw away that packaging during the trash step, I didn't say anything during the trash step, right?
Mhm.
Like, I might say, "Oh, is this packaging trash?" "Oh, no, 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 no." "Okay. All right." Well, once we get past those steps where the easy stuff is out, then we get to the point where we say, "Okay, if you were looking for this packaging for that doll, the box that she came in, where would you look for it first?" And so it's the same question that I ask all the time for myself, for anybody, but and it may take some time because a child often thinks there's a right answer that they're
Mm.
supposed to be giving, like that this is a test from their mom, instead of it, helping them understand, no, really, truly, we don't know where this goes. There's not a right answer. You tell me where you would look for it if you thought, oh, I need the box for that doll. where would you go in here first in your room? And then you go through the process of taking it there and saying, oh, wow. Well, this is where the doll itself is, plus these other dolls that you got at a garage sale, so you didn't have the box. But there's these dolls here. So, okay, well, if you're going to keep this box, we got to get rid of something here. What are you willing to get rid of to keep this box? And then that becomes an issue of the facts, helping them make those decisions, which is also going to be something that's going to carry them through in their own space eventually. Like, you're really teaching them the realities of space, things I did not know because my mom didn't know to teach me because she doesn't have the same kind of brain like I have,
Mm-hmm.
But it works really well with me and with children to do it this way is what I always say. But you're making that decision. Like, I'm not saying that this box doesn't have value. I don't see the value in it,
Mm-hmm.
but I acknowledge that you value this box. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to value it, you have to give it a space. And if you're going to give it a space, something else is going to have to leave to give it that space. And then that's when, and you can also, like, you can be sad with them. It's okay to be
Mm-hmm.
sad
Yeah.
that I can't keep everything. Like, that's part of it. It's like, this is life, right? I mean, isn't that our
Mm-hmm.
job as moms? We're teaching them the realities of life and how to function within those. And so we go, "Oh, man, that's tough. There's no room for it. Oh, well, I
Mm-hmm.
could put it over here. Oh, okay, great. So you're willing to get rid of your, I don't know, your rock collection in order to keep this box? Well, and, I mean, but you go through that process,
Mm-hmm.
and every
Mm-hmm.
time you do that, and that reality becomes more obvious and understandable to them, it's gonna get easier, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
different kids are different, and your son might have needed to go through that process 15 times, but it's going to be worth it because
Mm-hmm.
we also know, right, as parents, that a lot of the child's strategy in these situations is to get us to give up, right?
Mm.
I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Mhm.
it's reality. So if we go through the process, no, really, this is how we're going to do things. Like, this is the reality of the space. It's not me. I wish you could keep it, but we don't have the space.
Mhm.
Right. And so you go through that. And then the other thing with that too, and I'll get into the book in a minute, but the other thing too is I always like to remind kids that the way you know that you've decluttered enough is that a 5-minute pickup on a regular day is enough to get your room under control.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's the gauge that you have. And so as we're decluttering, I just remind them and say, hey, that's what we're working toward. We're working toward getting to the point where you can get your room picked up in 5 minutes on any regular day.
Mhm.
And that helps them understand, or start to understand and start to see how much easier it is to get their room under control. And also to let them know, if your room isn't getting picked up in 5 minutes, we're going to have to declutter some more. That's how I know that it's an amount that you can handle.
Mhm. Yeah, that is excellent. Okay, so one thought I had as
Mhm,
you were talking about, if you were going to look for the
mhm,
packaging for your doll, where would you go to look for it?
mhm,
And I immediately thought I wouldn't
mhm.
have a place that I would go to look for it. I just would want to keep if I were that child. I just want to have it.
Yeah.
Just want to have it.
Well, and that's my second decluttering question. That's the one that I ask if that is the answer. Like, oh, I wouldn't go looking for that.
Mhm.
Okay, then that's a fact. You're not going to go look for it.
Mhm.
So it's just going to be taking up space. It's just
Mhm.
going to be in the way. There's not a real home for it.
Mhm.
And so that's
Excellent.
when we know to let it go.
Right.
Yeah,
And that was immediately what I thought was, well, why would I keep it then
right.
if I wouldn't even be
Yeah.
looking for it?
Which is, I love that you said that too, because you said, why would I keep it? But that's you asking it about
Yeah.
your own item.
Right.
When I, as the
Mhm.
mom, or, my decluttering coaches that I train, we teach to not ask, why do you want this? Because I may not know why I'm so attached to that rock. I especially might not know off the top of my head, right? Like,
Mhm.
immediately being able to explain it. But I just know I love it. And now that you're making me explain it, and then I'm feeling flustered over that, I'm like, "I don't know why, but I'm sure gonna
Mhm.
hold on tighter now," right? And so but
For sure.
you asked your own self that question
Mhm.
as we went through the facts of, would you go looking for it? Would it ever cross your mind that you had the box for this?
Mhm.
Okay, well, if you wouldn't cross your mind that you had it and you wouldn't go looking for it, then we need to let it go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so my next question
Mhm,
has to do with um, the container.
mhm.
We've talked about your container method, which I adore and
Thank
has
you.
helped me so much. And that is why I'm limiting my clothes
Mhm.
because they have outgrown the container
Yeah.
of my closet. Um, but when it comes to kids, I talk to parents about parenting strong-willed kids,
Mhm,
and I could absolutely see my child saying, when I say, "Okay, well, if you want to keep this, then you have to eliminate your little rock collection here, or
mhm.
whatever." And my strong-willed child saying, "No, I don't. Look." It's
Yeah.
right on top. I
Well,
can pile it up.
and that's where the function comes in.
'Kay.
Like, that's where and it's one of those things where you know your kid, you know the stage that they're at, right? But that is a big part of it, is this space that has the rocks in it has to also have the function of being able to get the rocks out. But that's a lot to explain to a young child. That
Mhm.
5-minute pickup is gonna be gold,
Okay.
because that's the thing, is to get the one rock that I need, I had to get all the rocks out and now they're piled everywhere.
Mm.
That's part of the 5 minutes, that
Yes.
you have to get all those rocks back into their place. So you declutter to the container first,
Okay.
okay? And yes, they're gonna put their stuff in there, but if it's a container and they've piled the rocks so high that they're falling out, well, then it's gonna end up, being a
Mhm.
part of the 5-minute pickup. I will tell you, though, that I hear from parents all the time who tell me that they assumed that it would be like what you just said, right? Like, I know my kid, I know this isn't gonna work, I know that whatever, I know they're not gonna whatever. And then they tried the container method, and there's something about and with kids, I'm never a fan of pulling everything out for decluttering,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But once you have decluttered, like gotten rid of all the stuff that has no business being here, right? It is helpful for a child to have that rock box that they have and say, okay, everything else is, done, but we're just focusing on the rocks here. Okay. I want you to put your favorite rock in the box first, and then your next favorite rock. And just know that when the box is full, we'll have to, get rid of the other ones. We can put them out in the garden or whatever.
Mhm.
But this, put your favorite ones in there first, and then we'll know that it cuts off. Something happens. It rarely ever, for children, for adults, for any of us, it rarely ever comes down to the the space being completely full and then having to make a hard decision. So many parents will tell me all the time, like, "I can't believe it. They were done before this box was even full." Like,
Mm.
they had picked their favorites, because you're naturally sorting out my favorites versus my least favorites. And something about that lets you let a lot of things go.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's exactly right. I think it's a flipped focus, which you share, because I think we go from and our kids go from defending
Mhm.
the everything, everything that
Yes.
we own. We wanna protect it, argue for it,
Mhm.
versus which are your favorites, and you get to keep those.
Mhm.
You don't have to defend it. You just have to think and decide which do I love the most. And then it just helps all of us and
Mhm.
our kids to drop those defenses. So I love
Yes.
that approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
It works strangely well. Well, because I did it for myself, and I was the person who was ready to argue.
Mhm.
Like, how dare you tell me that this thing doesn't have value? It does have value. I have all these memories attached, and here's how I could use it and all that. And so I was always feeling defensive about my stuff. But when there's something about a person telling me that I can't have this thing that doesn't go well, but a physical inanimate space
Hmm.
telling me that same thing, I'm like, oh, okay. I,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. And I love your 5-minute cleanup too, because I
Mm,
think parents can really um, amplify the benefits of that for their kids.
mhm.
If it only takes you 5 minutes to pick up your room, you can have
Yeah.
more game time. You can spend more time playing with a friend. You won't have to be stuck at home cleaning your room for an hour.
Well, and
Um,
I think that
yeah.
I like the way you said that too, because it makes, cleaning your room when you're assuming it's going to take 2 hours is a big part of the resistance to cleaning your room, right? Like, I don't want to
Hmm.
spend 2 hours cleaning my room. But doing a 5-minute pickup and going, wow, we've still got too much stuff in here after 5 minutes, like helping them understand what that 5 minutes is, because they're not going to, in the beginning, they're not going to be able to do it in 5 minutes.
Hmm.
So you're going to want to practice for a while because they're going to get better and better. Because again, they're going to be resisting thinking that it's going to be the 2 hours, right? So it all kind of works together toward, oh, I'm so much more motivated now that I know we're actually talking about 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. I love it. Okay, so I would love for you to tell us more about Winnie's Pillows. What's it
Yes.
about, and how can parents use it as a teaching tool with their kids?
Well, it's a picture book for ages 4 to 8. And it is the story of Winnie, who loves cool stuff, interesting stuff, pretty stuff, fun stuff. And she loves her room. Like, she just loves all the neat little things that she's collected. And she goes to her aunt's house, and she's reading a story with her aunt, and she's kind of getting sleepy. And so her aunt tucks all these pretty pillows all around her. And she's like, oh, she's just the most comfortable she's ever been in her whole life. And, and so then when it's time to go, her aunt says, you can take these pillows with you. And she's like, oh, I didn't realize how much I love pillows, right? And so she takes these pillows home, and then she ends up in situations where she gets more pillows and more pillows because she has decided, I love pillows. That is my thing. I love pillows. And so every time she sees a pillow, she thinks, well, I need to have it, right? And so she brings them all into her room, but then she can't actually do the things in her room that she loves to do. And she can't see the things that she loves about her room, her pretty rug that she loves so much. She can't see it anymore because it's covered in pillows. And so even though she loves pillows, she gets so many that it makes it harder for her to actually enjoy them or enjoy any of her stuff because it's
Mhm.
totally taken over by pillows. And so then she realizes that through some, things she had done earlier in the story, she realizes that if she will keep just the very best pillows in the very best places, then she gets to enjoy the pillows and she gets to enjoy her room and do all the things that she loves in there. And so then she is willing to let the other pillows go to people who will choose them as their favorites. And so
Mm.
so yeah, it's a fun little story that just kind of gives the overall general idea. I mean, I hope to do like tons more children's stories because I feel like I
Mm.
could do them on all my different concepts, but I feel like it's
Mhm.
the overall concept of just because I love something doesn't mean it can be in my house, because if I have too much, then it makes everything harder.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I end up resenting the thing that I originally brought in because I loved.
For
Yeah.
sure. I loved what you just said there about letting it go so it could be someone else's favorite.
Mhm.
I never thought of it that way.
I have to tell you my favorite thing. I've had several people say, because on the truck, the truck comes the truck comes to the house to pick up the extra pillows,
Okay.
and it says Walrus City Thrift on it. and because Winnie is a walrus. And I've had several people go, "Oh, that's so cute." And I'm like, we had so much discussion over what to call the thrift store,
Oh,
which
oh,
was so fun on there. So it's just one of those fun little,
yes.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
so cute.
yeah,
Okay, so how would you recommend using this book with kids to help them begin the process of decluttering themselves?
yeah. My hope is that it will be a book, that it is a book that kids love to read because it's bright and it's colorful and it's a funny, interesting story. And that will then open up the conversation of, when I'm frustrated in my room because I can't find my things. Well, you think maybe we have too many, like Winnie did. And you remember Winnie got rid of some of her least favorite pillows. She loved them, but she let them go so that she could enjoy and function well in her space. And um I just hope it opens up that conversation, and it's just a visual demonstration of it's okay to love the things that you love. We want our kids to be into their thing that lights them up, right? But also not let it take over
Mhm.
and make things harder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Excellent. Excellent. I can absolutely see kids just spontaneously going to their rooms and starting that. And
I've heard, it makes me so happy when I hear from parents who are like, "I can't believe it. We read this book and then my son was like, I think I want to do that in my room with my stuffed animals." And I'm like, "Oh, yay. It worked."
yes,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, that is fantastic. And I think this would not only be a great book for parents to purchase, but grandparents could
Mhm.
purchase it
Mhm.
too, and enjoy reading that with their grandchildren. Where can people get a copy of Winnie's Pillows?
Anywhere books are sold. So if you ever want to look for any of my books, just Google Dana K. White. You got to put the K in there because there's a man named Dana White. That's not me. But yeah, if you put in Dana K. White, you'll find it. Just Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the places where books are sold. So, yeah,
Excellent. And remind us again of what your social media accounts are.
yeah. So I am most places under either Dana K. White or A Slob Comes Clean, which is the blog I started many, many years ago as I to figure out how to get my house under control. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you, Dana. This was
Thank you.
has been another wonderful episode of practical advice, but also loads of inspiration. So thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Thank you for having me on again. You're so good at this. You really are.
That's very sweet.
You
Thank you.
really are.
I love how Dana makes decluttering with kids feel so much more doable. Let me share the key takeaways I want you to remember. First, the biggest mistake we make is trying to convince our kids or ourselves that something is bad in order to get rid of it. You don't have to do that. You can acknowledge that something is wonderful and still recognize there's no space for it. Second, don't hold up items and ask, "Why do you want this?" That puts kids on the defensive. Instead, use Dana's two powerful questions. If you were looking for this, where would you look for it first? If the answer is, "I wouldn't go looking for it," then you know it doesn't need a home in your space. Third, the container concept works even with strong willed kids. Have them put their favorite items in the container first. Something about physically sorting favorites versus least favorites helps them naturally let things go, often before the container is even full. Fourth, the 5-minute pickup is your gauge. If your child can't get their room picked up in 5 minutes on a regular day, you know you need to declutter more. This also makes cleanup so much more motivating for kids. And finally, use Winnie's Pillows to open the conversation. Kids love the colorful story about Winnie the Walrus, who loves pillows, but gets so many that she can't enjoy her room anymore. Parents are telling Dana that after reading the book, their kids voluntarily went to declutter their own rooms. You can find Winnie's Pillows anywhere books are sold: Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and more. Just search for Dana K. White. You can also find Dana on social media under Dana K. White or A Slob Comes Clean, which is her blog and podcast. You can find a link to Training Aliens Level 2 in the show notes at homeschoolsanity.com/kids-declutter. Have a happy homeschool week. This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.